The gyms who are going to see the most chargebacks are the ones who are trying to catch the member or catch the parents into making sure that they pay something. Is the membership agreement alone going to allow you to beat a chargeback? No, but it's instrumental.
Let's be honest, everyone. Most of our clients don't read the whole contract. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Cheer Biz podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we're sitting down with our most frequent guest, Matt Becker, attorney at law, Esquire, all of the cool official names. Matt Becker is the owner of gymlawyers.com. He is an absolutely phenomenal resource in the cheer industry. We are so lucky to have him. In fact, Matt, you would be shocked that your episodes are some of the most listened to episodes on the podcast.
Really? Well, thank you.
You even beat out a number of like really famous cheer people that come on and do interviews. Like yours get more listens. And here we are talking about sometimes subjects that are like watching paint dry. I mean, we made ADA compliance somehow entertaining. So we're going to be talking about a number of different subjects today. We're going to probably break these up into a couple different episodes. And so, yeah, really excited to be sitting down and talking about some of these subjects. Matt, how have things been going for you? Catch us up. What's new in Matt Becker's life? And what's new in law?
And the law. Ooh. New exciting stuff in the law. Let's talk about like non-compete clauses. Yeah.
Yes. Actually, we should talk about those too.
There's number 4. Here, we'll throw a teaser out real fast. So back in April, the FTC pulled down it's a federal organization, commission, put out a ruling that said in very limited circumstances, can you still use non-competes? Otherwise, non-competes are completely wiped out. Everybody freaked out, and they were like, oh no, as employers, we have to get rid of all of our non-competes, which are really hard to enforce anyway. And then somebody sued the FTC, and a judge came down with a ruling 2 days ago, that basically said, nope, sorry, the FTC went beyond its power here. It cannot ban non-competes. You don't have to follow that rule anymore. So for now, non-competes are okay, but the FTC might appeal it, and we might still get a ban on non-competes. But that's the new hot topic of the law.
See, that's actually really interesting because I only knew the first part. And I think that actually goes into a good rule of thumb, which is with the wheels of law turn slowly. And with our current world, we get information very quickly. And so things will get reported or things will be put out that are not necessarily as set in stone as you might think. And so you sometimes need to be cautious and consult the advice of a professional on, hey, do we need to change something about our business? Because there are processes that things go to, and it is entirely possible that, non-competes are not enforceable. So for this period of time, they aren't, and then a judge overrules it on a suit or some sort of appeal, and now they are enforceable, and now there will be another process where they could be unenforceable again, and it can be this weird kind of ping pong all the way up to, in our judicial system, a Supreme Court style. Where then they can weigh in and go, no, sorry, you can't do this. I think most people don't have that experience. One of the things that I think is relevant in the cheer industry is there's companies that have been sued, and they'll report on a settlement agreement reached, and they'll tell people what the settlement agreement is, but the settlement agreement hasn't been certified.
Right.
And so people are like, oh, well, this thing it's a fact, it's a thing. And that there are still steps and processes where a judge actually has to go thumbs up. Yes, I approve this, which I think
9 times out of 10 does happen, but isn't a guarantee. They do go off the rails sometimes and mark them up.
And just because the agreement has been reached doesn't mean that it's enforceable yet. It's not enforceable until it's certified and put into place. So, man, so much interesting stuff. See, how can you guys not think the law is exciting?
The other like big thing, not necessarily in the cheer industry, but if anybody is familiar with the words CrossFit, last weekend was the CrossFit Games for 2024, and a guy died during a run swim event, and that has shaken up that area of the fitness industry. So we've been buzzing for a little bit, right about a week now. Well, not quite, because it happened, I think, last weekend, right?
2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weekends ago? Yeah, I'm looking at the date and I keep getting myself confused. So yeah, we've been buzzing for about a week over gym owners just wondering what's going to happen from here. What do I need to know about? Is this going to affect my affiliate? Is CrossFit going to go down? Are they going to settle? Same kind of conversation we were just having. But that one, everybody's like now freaking out with their liability waivers. And
what a tragic set of circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what? You don't swim in CrossFit. I'm sorry. These guys aren't training swim events that often, from what I know. Most CrossFit gyms don't have a pool.
No.
And then, I mean, the weather conditions, and then I actually heard some of that stuff, and like the fact that there were spectators jumping in the water and then lifeguards telling them to get out and not even going and looking for, not listening to, oh my gosh, just tragic.
It's a bad situation all the way around.
Not to like belabor that subject, but I think it's an interesting situation where I think it's a what the situation is in totality, the totality of the circumstances. There we go. So the coffee's still settling in.
Sure.
There were so many missteps along the way that increase liability from a legal standpoint, right?
Right.
Whereas
takes it from ordinary negligence to gross negligence. And those are the keys buzzwords that everybody keeps throwing out.
Exactly. And I think that's something to consider when you're looking at your cheer gym or your business in general. You may have something that someone might look at and go, well, ultimately this is kind of unsafe. But the key is to build in layer upon layer upon layer of redundancy. So you're decreasing the likelihood of an accident, even though accidents can happen and bad things, tragic things can occur. This was actually when I first got my membership at the firearms range that my department trained at, because as instructors, we had memberships. I had to go to this training course, and they talked about, because this range was known for its like absurd safety rules, like over the top. There's so many rules. And they were giving a presentation. They were like, look, this is about redundancy, because yes, we have 20 rules in place to being able to send bullets down range. But the goal is to have it be, not have us be a slotted spoon where things can get through easily, or Swiss cheese with a ton of holes in it. Like, we want to, if there is an issue, we want it to get caught by one of the other redundant layers. And so that was one of the really sad things about that circumstance. And I think is just the one major lesson learned, even though most of us aren't running CrossFit games.
No, but what I've been challenging the gym owners I've been talking to is, use this as an opportunity to realize, like, it really can happen to anybody. And I think that's something that you and I have echoed on the podcast a number of times, and that we echo in messages and you guys echo in with the mentorship that you provide to gyms, that just because it hasn't happened in the last 10 years doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And just because it happened to a gym across the US doesn't mean it can't happen to you. Like, crap happens, and it happens fast, and it can happen to anybody. And that's not the time to then go, oh shit, somebody just had a heart. Sorry, I just made. Yeah, there goes that explicit
Mike,
sticker.
You have to bleep it.
Oh crap. am I covered? Like, is my waiver okay? Is my entity set up? But again, we're belaboring the point. Wasn't one of the three topics we originally talked about getting on here, but we kind of derailed a little bit.
Okay. So we had three different topics to talk about, and maybe we'll do a interesting, slightly less interesting one. And so let's start with one that I think is front of mind for a lot of gym owners. I would guarantee that every gym owner has experienced this at some point in time if they've been in business for more than 5 years. And if they haven't experienced it, they will. And that is the chargeback.
Mm-hmm.
The super
new consumer
annoying
power.
Yes, the super annoying. I have a contract. You came and got services. You paid me, and then decided you quit or something like that. And now you've disputed that charge. And I just get a notification that $200, $300, $1,000, whatever has been pulled out of my account.
Pulled out of your account. Right.
And I can challenge it. So let's talk through what that looks like, why those protections might exist, and then what gym owners can do.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So let's rewind for a little bit. What is a chargeback? And so, as you just sort of described, a chargeback is when somebody says to a credit card or their bank, I didn't authorize that charge, give it back to me. Okay. Chargebacks popped up a number of years ago as a way to protect us, the consumers, against fraudulent charges, usually against our credit card. Back then, it was like primarily credit cards, then debit cards, then we got into ACH transactions. And it was all designed to prevent fraud. I'm sitting here at my home, and I all of a sudden get a buzz on my credit card that somebody in France just bought a $500 dinner. I call up the bank and say, that wasn't me. And they charge that back. Right. And we were all like, hey, cool, that's awesome. And like credit cards are like, yeah, we give you all this protection. We'll charge back for you. We'll protect you. Fast forward today, the consumers are using this as a way to just get their money back because they don't like how something happened. They don't like that the gym charged them. They don't like that they agreed to pay $150 a month to go to the gym for 6 months, stopped going for 3 months, paid for another 3 months, and then all of a sudden decided they wanted that money back because they chose not to go to the gym anymore and never canceled their membership. So it's kind of getting into this, and I'm sure there are gym owners listening to this now just ripping out their hair going, yeah, this happens all the time. We can't beat it. It's so frustrating. What can we do? All right. So, the next part of it is, if you're doing ACH transactions, if you're taking direct withdrawals from somebody's bank account, not a debit card, not a credit card, but from the bank account in order to avoid credit card processing fees, you will always lose a chargeback. You don't even get a chance to dispute that because banks are so paranoid about anybody touching somebody's money directly from their bank account that they will instantly just charge that rate back. So, yeah, we like to tell gyms, you guys, you can save $1,500 a month if you just process through ACH and you don't take credit cards, you don't pay fees. But the alternative to that is if you're doing a lot, let's say with your competitions and you're getting paid in fulls up front, and then halfway through the season, the kid quits and the parents want their money back and you took their total tuition through ACH, you're going to lose that charge back every time. Now, from there, the other two chargeback options are credit cards, debit cards. Okay. The name of the game here is, were you, the gym owner, authorized to take that charge? Okay. That's going to be the first question the bank asks. If it doesn't look like, if you can't prove that you were authorized to take that charge, you'll lose the charge back. Okay. So how do we prevent them from happening, right?
So on that, one of the things, so when we talk about proving it, I think ultimately we're talking about contracts, right? And very clear language in contracts. So I'm going to give you a couple, like, would this, in your mind, or as an attorney, would you recommend this as good validation for proving it? So if you were to say, well, everyone has to manually input their credit card into iClass Pro or Jackrabbit or anything else. They had to provide us the credit card for us to even charge it. Therefore, it was authorized.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not going to be enough to just tell the bank they gave us their credit card, so therefore we are authorized to charge it. Even a line in your membership agreement that says, by providing us your credit card, you are authorizing us to charge it, banks are still going to deny that in certain circumstances.
And maybe many circumstances. I know we've lost some chargebacks that have happened years and years ago because of our contracts and the way they were worded. Okay, so them providing it isn't enough. Having a short line in the contract isn't enough. How do you feel about not even a digital signature, but like a digital acknowledgement of a contract that is clear? So like they check that box saying, I acknowledge that I've read the terms and conditions of the contract, but it's not going to have a signature on it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So there is federal law out there that basically authorizes electronic signatures in 3 different formats to be as relevant or enforceable as a wet signature. A wet signature is literally pen on paper. Okay. The lowest level and the hardest to prove, if you will, is the click button acknowledgement. Okay. Yep. I read all of this. I click the button, says I acknowledge it, and I move on to the next one. Okay. The next level up, as far as being able to enforce it, is the typing of the name. So you get to the end of the contract, I type in my name, it's just a digital typing of my name, and I submit. Okay. The top level is the literal writing of, like either on a trackpad or on an iPad or something like that, where you use your finger or a stylus in order to literally write your signature. You see this a lot on like DocuSign. Right, that sort of thing. That's the top level. It's time stamped. It's, you can at least then put that in front of somebody if you have to and say, isn't this your signature? Okay. And they say, no, you've got, there's other ways that you can say, well, then whose is it? Right. But if it looks like all of their other signatures like mine does, then yeah, it's going to be really hard for me to deny that that was my signature.
So not to derail, but you just brought up something that is, I think, interesting. So how does it work if my wife, with Tori, is signing up the kids for something? She signs all the contracts, but she puts my credit card down with my name on it. Can then I go back and be like, I didn't sign it. My wife signed it. And ergo, I didn't approve that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, in order to get a chargeback, yeah, you probably could very easily do that. If we're going on a little bit higher level than just on a chargeback, and it's in something like, we might see a situation in this where, let's say there's a married couple and they're getting a divorce, and the kid's still going to the gym, and mom's taking the kid to the gym and uses the credit card that was the marriage's credit card, and dad all of a sudden calls up the gym owner and says, hey, I didn't authorize that.
That's not a maybe. It happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
I didn't come up with that fact pattern on my own. I've got that phone call.
Yeah.
And from that position, the gym owner does then have it's pretty fact specific, but yeah, my fiance and I, we share a credit card. And in that instance, if a gym owner called me up and they could very easily say, well, isn't this a joint credit card? I was told this was a joint credit card. She has authorization to use the credit card. Yeah, I think the dad's going to lose. And that's fact pattern. I think the dad is going to lose that argument every time. Now, if it was dad's sole credit card and mom takes the credit card and uses it,
there are people who have
give the money back.
There are people who have separate bank accounts,
right?
And they just choose to live their life that way. As we go down this path, because I think there's still more to talk about, as always, everyone who's listening, I know this sounds like, well, oh my God, why would I even take credit card? I'm going to start taking cash. Then they can't charge it back. That's just not what we're saying. Right. We're saying to make sure you have your systems and your structures in place to limit the likelihood that people do charge back. And I actually do want to talk about just avoiding them in general. and then have your contracts and your systems in place. So if you do get a chargeback, you have the highest likelihood of winning, but nothing is guaranteed. And yes, there are workarounds, but at the end of the day, I've been doing this for 15 years, and maybe Oregon's a little bit different. We've had like 10 chargebacks in 15 years. It's not like this is every day and every single person is using this as some like life hack to steal money from cheer gym owners. Most people understand that they signed up for something and they're going to pay for it.
And I think you hit a nail on the head there, Dan, that if you saw like the title to this episode of something dealing with chargebacks and you started listening to learn how to beat a chargeback, you're putting your energy in the wrong spot. Your energy needs to be put in avoiding the chargeback. And that's what we can spend a majority of the rest of the episode talking about. There's a little bit that we can talk about on how to fight the chargeback, but if you've done everything up to that point to avoid the chargeback, you're going to get less chargebacks. If you're listening to this going, oh, great, now I can learn how to beat chargebacks, you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah. So one of these things, from my knowledge, that's the most important, that I think goes towards eliminating and aids in being successful if there is a chargeback, is your contract. So what are the best practices for limiting chargebacks and having the highest likelihood of success if you receive a chargeback when it comes to a contract, a membership contract?
Yeah. All right. So again, the question is whether or not you are authorized to take the charge. The gyms who are going to see the most chargebacks are the ones who are trying to, for lack of a better term, catch the member or catch the parents into making sure that they pay something. Okay. Probably the three most common areas that we see chargebacks are: one, when the member has been paying for a membership and not using it. Okay. Two, when we try to get like the last payment out of the member. I don't see this a ton in the cheer industry, but it crops up every once in a while, where we say something like there's a 30-day notice of cancellation or a 15-day notice to cancel this, our contract or our agreement. And if there's a payment that falls within that last, that 30-day window, that 15-day window, we'll take that final payment. Okay. Really big in other industries like personal training and CrossFit and parkour and those industries, MMA, not so much in cheer, but it does exist. So that's like one of those. Where we see it a lot in the cheer industry is what I would refer to from my perspective as sort of like the punishment fees. You guys call them quitters fees, but it's like those, you're quitting on me, so I'm going to try to like hit you with a big final bill to punish you or to hit you finally for quitting. Okay, so if we look at those, how can we then sort of start to adjust against these? Well, first and foremost, let's look at the situation of the member is paying but not coming, right? Do we have systems in place where we're following up with that member? Okay, we might call it like the client success manager. Do we have somebody in our organization who's going through and checking who haven't we seen for a week? Who have we not seen for 2 weeks? Who have we not seen for 3 weeks? And are we following up with those parents or those clients in order to say, hey, why aren't you coming to the gym? Can we do anything to help you get into the gym? Instead of just saying, oh, well, they're not coming in, but we're still getting their money every month, so lucky us, right? So having systems in place that are a little bit more active and trying to make sure that people are coming into the gym.
So best practices that we found: within 2 weeks, you should, if it's been a week, like someone just doesn't show up for a class or something like that, shooting them an email. Hey, we didn't see so-and-so. Just wanted to check in, make sure everything's all right. If it's been 2 weeks, give them a call. If it's been 3 weeks, sending an email saying, hey, we haven't seen you the last 3 weeks. We want to remind you your billing date is coming up next week. It is an automatic charge. We totally are happy to keep you in the program. Like, you want to show those steps of reaching out to people. And honestly, you guys, it's the right thing to do. I know we want to keep revenue coming in the gym, and we want to keep that, but that, whatever you're charging monthly, I'll use mine. Let's say that $119 is not going to make or break my gym. but that 1-star review is going to take 10 times the 5-star reviews to offset it. So I just want to I always want to be doing the best I can to help take care of those clients and make sure that if they are quitting, they quit with the best possible perspective on our program that they can have.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we obviously, we've been bouncing around that membership agreement. Is the membership agreement alone going to allow you to beat a chargeback? No, but it's instrumental. And yes, the authorization language to charge somebody's card that we put into a membership agreement, again, is not alone going to guarantee you win a chargeback, but it's going to be one of those elements that we use. Okay, so having a very clear, concise membership agreement where we have authorization language, where we explain the charges, so that we can then go to the credit card company and say, look, they signed this. It tells them when they are going to be charged. Here's our emails that we sent to them. Here's our text messages that we sent to them, reaching out to them, reminding them of when they were going to be charged. They did nothing about it. They got charged. We should be able to keep that money. Okay. So, on the instance of the person isn't coming, those are a couple of the ways that we can start to prepare ourselves to fight against that kind of a chargeback. Sometimes we'll even see chargebacks where the member was coming. They don't get any results. They think, oh, well, I didn't get any results, so I'm going to issue a chargeback. So do we have systems put in place where we're requiring parents to check their kids into classes so that we know, oh, wait, actually, I can pull that report from Jackrabbit. I can pull that report from iClass and send it to the credit card company to show they came. They paid for 1 day a week. Look, they came like 7 out of the last 8 weeks. They used the service. Okay, they can't just take that money back. So those are some other systems. So one, do we have that membership agreement that authorizes us to take the payments, puts the member on really good notice and expectations of everything we're going to do with their money? Two, do we have systems in place where we're constantly checking up with our members and encouraging them to come back into the gym? And maybe even we have a system where if they don't come, we just cut off their payments. Because again, are we trying to catch the members here? Are we trying to make money for not doing any work? That's going to be where we're going to start to walk our way into some of these chargeback scenarios. And then three, do we have systems in place where we're actually tracking the attendance of the member so that we have that element to say, no, look, I can show that they actually used the gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things you touched on there is really clear in the contract of how we're going to use their money, how they're going to be charged, making sure those things are really clear to people. I think it's just the right thing to do. And again, in this circumstance, it helps eliminate the likelihood of chargebacks and helps you in those situations you get them, because you can, if your contract says this is exactly what you're paying, this is it's billed monthly, it's billed on this date. It's like you have all of those details listed out. This is how you cancel. This is you are billed regardless of attendance. There is no proration for skipping. All of those things are listed out. You just have much better protection, and you're going into that relationship transparently with a client. Now, let's be honest, everyone. Most of our clients don't read the whole contract. Right? They look at it, they go, yeah, okay. They look at, okay, it's this much a month. It's this, but pretty rare is the person who reads every word on your waiver or every word on your contract. We are all used to hitting the I agree, I acknowledge. Just know that you might have to remind people of what they signed up for.
So let's go on to scenario two. Scenario two is, the cancellation, where I'm going to get one more fee out of you. Okay. Or we can even adjust this to they've paid in full and now they want to cancel and they're asking for part of their money back. Okay. I'll cover pay in fulls really quickly. So from a legal perspective, we never suggest going any kind of pay in full because you walk yourself into a situation where it gets very awkward that if the parent or if the kid decides to quit mid-season and you're holding on to this money and the parent wants their money back, you're just creating a headache for yourself. So anytime we're doing pay in fulls, you just have to understand that probably about 70 to 75% of the time, your agreement, as long as it's very clear about pay in fulls and you got authorizations and you got them signing off on everything, and you can, the parents may look at it and go, okay, fine. Like, I don't like you. I don't like your policy, but I'm not going to worry about it. The other, 25 to 30% of the time, they're going to make waves about it. And it's just, you can have all of the no refund policy language you want in your agreement. It's not going to be worth your time and effort to fight against this refund. Work with them, give them a partial back, give them a full refund for the amount that they haven't used. Do everything you can to just keep them happy, because it's not going to be worth your time to fight against it.
Yeah. I found that best practice in that, because we do, lots of cheer gyms do pay in full. We actually have a number of people that do pay in full on the season. Best practices when we see those quitters is our general rule of thumb is, if you haven't received the item or we haven't purchased whatever it was you paid for, we will provide a refund for that thing. And that's generally our response. Hey, you attended camp, so you have to pay for camp. That's you attended it, you received it. We purchased your uniform. We can give you your uniform when it arrives. It's yours. You bought it. We've paid for it. If we can sell it to someone else, we'll give you your money back. And so we try to work with people in those circumstances, but generally, yeah, you're going to be giving some sort of, the best practice is to give some sort of a refund. And generally, if you do a partial, 90% of the time, that takes the wind out of people's sails. And that's most people are reasonable enough that they go, yes, I understand that I went to camp and that you bought the uniform and that we attended choreography and received choreography and now are choosing to leave. So I know that those things have been paid for. I understand that.
Yeah. And then in the other situation where, somebody, not yet talking about the quitters fees, but we're just talking about our rec programs, they want to quit. And again, I think the cheer industry does a really good job of this as compared to other industries, where a lot of the cheer industry just says, quit any time prior to your next payment. And we'll quit and we'll shut off your payments. I think that more and more, the more that we're getting into gyms seeing more and more chargebacks, I think gyms across industry are going to be moving more and more toward really you can just cancel anytime, because that last 30-day notice, 15-day notice, 20-day notice, we're going to take a final payment off of you. More and more gyms are getting hit with chargebacks for that. And that's a really hard one to fight because it's really easy for the gym member to say, I quit my members, I canceled my membership. I didn't authorize that final payment. And the credit card companies are just going to take, they're going to give that money back. It's real hard for a gym owner to win that argument. So I think the cheer industry is leading this one. I think you guys are great, because most of the cheer gyms we work with just say anytime. We charge everybody on the 1st of the month. You let me know by the 28th of the previous month and you're good.
And a lot of us do suggest, we ask that you let us know 30 days in advance, but we're not going to charge you if you tell us prior to the billing date, or at least hopefully we don't charge you. Every once in a while, your front desk doesn't actually put it in the system or something, and then you're going to give a refund. And I've gotten those emails, right? Hey, we were charged. We sent an email on this date, quitting, or saying we couldn't be there this month. We'd like a refund. The proper way to handle that is absolutely so sorry that happened. Let me get that refunded for you. Again, that $99, $119, it's not worth the negative press. And it's just at the end of the day, I want my customers to be treated the same way I would want to be treated as a customer. And that's ultimately what I try and put in the forefront of, if this were me in their position, how would I want a company to respond? I think that's the best kind of rule of thumb, right?
Yeah. The other thought on that is, if you're going to do that, if you're going to do a 15 or 30-day notice requirement in order to cancel in an effort to get a final payment like that, you can add a little bit of language in your membership agreement that says, I, the client, or I, the parent, I'm acknowledging that if I give less than a 30-day window, I'm authorizing that final payment and my kid can continue to use the gym one final month. That will help give you a little bit of assistance in fighting back to the credit card, because then you can say again, like, they've authorized it. But none of this is sure thing. And we'll probably have just as many gym owners listening to this to say, yeah, I've been successful with a couple of chargebacks, and just as many will say, I've never won a chargeback. So all we can do is just try to set it up to give you the benefit of one, but there's no guarantees on it.
Yeah. And I think what people don't realize, if they haven't dealt with it much, is when you're fighting a chargeback, you're not going to court. You're not presenting your case. You're not getting to argue it. You're sending an email. You're maybe sending the contract, and like, you're giving an explanation. But at the end of the day, this isn't a judge ruling on it. And the credit card companies, ultimately, like, their customer is the person, like, who they want to be satisfied at the end of this.
Is not you, the gym owner.
Is not you, the gym owner. That's not really who they are caring about. If they care about anyone, they are more prone to taking the customer side on a chargeback. And I know that may seem sucky as a business owner, but like you said, this all comes from that fraud perspective. And yes, it's somewhat abused now a little bit by a few people, but ultimately we want, like, if we actually just dealt with fraud on our account, it was really nice to get all that money back.
Yeah. Right. And
it's nice not have to jump through hoops.
Yeah.
Right. So you touched on quitters fees a couple times, and we in Next Gen, we aren't really big fans of quitters fees. We don't recommend people have them in their contracts because, 1, chargebacks, 2, negative reviews, 3, why? Now, I've heard people make the argument, and again, you're not going to court. And even if you did, gym owners, a judge does not care when you say, well, we had to re-choreograph the routine. A judge that doesn't mean anything. You guys, I realize that for us, cheerleading is really important, and it matters, and it is what we wake up and we think about, what we go to bed and dream about. But the rest of the world doesn't see it that way. And in a court of law, it's semi-laughable to go in there and be like, now granted, they'll see you as a business, but when you're articulating, oh, well, we had to re-choreograph this thing and put this other 8-year-old in the routine, and it's a hard sell for that being your reason.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that I was going to get into. And
sorry,
it's fine. You just if you just want to run the podcast, Dan, please go ahead.
Everyone, he's joking.
When it comes to quitters fees and penalty fees or punishment fees or anything in which, like, you're essentially trying to, like, charge somebody for the right to be able to cancel, it's essentially charging somebody for a service that they never get to receive. And that's the way that the judge is going to look at it, or an arbitration board or anything else. And banks know this, right? Banks know that you're trying to take a fee for them for a service that they don't, service, product, whatever, that they don't get to receive. No judge is going to look at that and go, oh yeah, okay, I'll let you keep your $300 or your $500. The judge is going to go like, well, how, like, but you're making somebody pay for something that they don't get any benefit out of. And that's going to be the argument that every gym owner is really going to struggle to overcome anytime they're trying to fight against some sort of a quitter's fee.
And now, you may not know, but historically, right? Like, back when I was in college and I signed up for my first cell phone, there used to be break of contract fees were like everywhere, right? It was like, if I want to cancel my service with AT&T, I'm paying $800 to quit. And so it's like, well, oh my, but those things have kind of, they don't really exist much anymore, unless I just am not paying attention, but it's not nearly as common. And I'm assuming it's because of some sort of court rulings or just clarifications on what is allowable by companies.
I know that there have been a few rulings, and I would have to dive in order to figure out which rulings were actually out there. But there have been a number of consumer protection rulings that have come down over the last 5 or 10 years that have limited those things, have eliminated them. And again, it's sort of also we're seeing the free market and best practices of, if this cell phone company is going to charge you a $200 early termination fee, and this cell phone company comes out and advertises you can come and go whenever you please, who's everybody going to start to go with? And I'll get that question sometimes too, of like, well, those guys charge fees and they get their fees, so why can't I do it? And at the end of the day, it's because those are massive companies. They're going to send you somebody after you to collect it. They're going to nail you on your credit report. Okay, they have the systems and everything set up to do this. Do you, as the gym owner, really want to go down that path and worry about that? And
especially over a quitter fee.
Right. Yeah. Over one parent who you're trying to collect a $300 fee versus a cell phone company that's nationwide, who has it's worth their time because there's 100 people trying to break early. And so that's a lot more money for that company to try to be collecting against than your one parent who's trying to quit. There are, we've talked to a few people in the cheer industry who also go to collections. They'll take their members to collections. Pretty like rare just to the cheer industry. We don't get that in a lot of the other industries. I think it's definitely an option. I think it's just something for that individual cheer owner to figure out, like, do you want that reputation? Are you, is that sort of, and if it is, like, great. Collections are there and you can use it. You'll at least get a percentage back if you can beat it.
Yeah,
but
I have a whole
it doesn't
episode
always
on,
give you the next. Oh, you have done that?
I have done a whole episode. It's an old one on why I don't send people to collections and why I don't sue my previous customers. And ultimately, it comes down to, if people leave you with a balance of more than a month, it's your fault as a gym owner. And I say that like fingers, you can't, if you're not watching video, I'm pointing at myself. It's your fault, right? Because you allowed that. Now, yes, did it come out of the goodness of your heart? Did you want to make it so that athlete could cheer? Did you not want to punish the whole team? Yes, yes, and yes. But we also know that the further someone gets behind, especially in all-star elite cheer, where the average cost per month is well over $400. Well, if people start getting $800, $1,200 behind, it's really hard to catch up. So, we unfortunately, we create that circumstance, and then people leave us with a bill and it sucks. And I've been left with bills before and it sucks. You just have to be, I'm not a big fan of sending people to collections. Like you said, the reputation, and I did it once way back in my early days, like my first 2 years owning the gym. We had a bunch of uncollected bills and it just feels gross. Yeah. And
it does kind of feel gross.
It actually keeps you angry for longer. Mm-hmm. Because you're mad at the collections company because I can't get in touch with them and people are dodging them. And it keeps you dealing with and pissed, as opposed to take it, see if you can collect on it. I'm all for reaching out to people who owe you money and saying, hey, you still owe us money. Can we set up a payment plan? You would be surprised how many people would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yes, let's please do that. And maybe they don't finish it, but you're still going to get a percentage of it. And that's the same thing you get from collections. It's a lot less nasty. And B, write it off as bad debt. You write it off on your taxes and move on. Drink a Diet Coke and move on.
And move on. Yeah. So I think that covers the majority of the scenarios that gym owners tend to see chargebacks with. And if now you're like, well, what if I do suffer a chargeback? Well, go back, 20 minutes ago and listen to good membership agreements, good systems, good records. All of that evidence is what you hopefully have to be put together to send to the credit card company in order to say, hey, look, I was authorized to take these payments, please go ahead and give me the money back. But if you're at that point, please go back and double check all of your systems that got you up to that point, because if your energy is being put in trying to beat it, you really should be focusing on trying to avoid it.
So was it chargebacks that we said would be about a 20-minute conversation?
I think so.
We did so good.
Let's go on to topic number 2 then.
Topic number 2. Yes.
Let's finish this episode and move on to number 2.
This is going to be the end of episode 1 of a 3-part series with the one and only Matt Becker. So thank you for joining us.